Welcome to TV Africa News. Hope you had a beautiful day. This is Africa Today. My name is Nahawa Kajura. First are the headlines.
In the news today, only 13 Noob supporters have been granted court bail. Edim Two and others will have to wait up to Monday next week. COVID-19 pandemic dominated the African Union Summit discussion. Morocco retains the CHAN title after thrashing Mali 2-0. These and more stories in our bulletin.
The news in detail. The General Court Martial has granted a non-cash bail of 20 million shillings to only 13 out of the 49 Noob supporters who are currently facing charges of illegal possession of ammunition under this court. Let's have more on this story.
All the 8 ladies and some 5 men have been granted bail, but 36 remain in custody until 15th February this month for court to decide their fate. Among the 36 still in custody is famous Bokeni Ali aka Nubian Lee, who is known for always singing along with Kyagulanyi Ssentamu aka Bobby Wine, Edward Sebufu aka Eddie Mutwe, who is Bobby Wine's bodyguard, and Oyelrot Daniel aka Danny Magic. This came as a result of an affidavit sworn by the Detective Inspector of Police Wetaka Peter, who confirmed for having participated in the investigation of the applicant's case, saying that the applicants were not tortured throughout the whole investigation process as they claim, so some should be denied bail. Detective Assistant Inspector of Police Wetaka Peter opposed the bail of the 36 on claims that from the time of arrest they were hostile and violent, and if granted bail they are likely to continue being violent. However, he left the matter to the discretion of court on the remaining 13 applicants to decide upon their fate. In a rejoinder, counsel for the applicant, Wameli Anthony, told court that Detective Assistant Inspector of Police Peter Wetaka was only making baseless claims since he's just an investigating officer who wasn't part of the team which made the arrest. Neither is he a custodian. After court hearing both sides, he decided to only grant bail to the 13 and after adjourned to the above-mentioned date to decide the fate of the others. Anthony Wameli explains the transformation of the case and the way forward for Noob as a party. Prosecution alleges that the accused persons and others still at large on January 3, 2021, while at Makerere Kavule, Chigundu Zone, Kawempe Division, were found in illegal possession of 4 rounds of ammunition of an AK-47 gun, and the said ammunition was a monopoly of the defense forces. The group was first arrested on December 30, 2020 from Kalangara district.
The COVID-19 pandemic gave birth to many major changes in the way we go about our day-to-day activities. These range from living, working, and learning. Schools were among the first institutions to close down in Uganda because the traditional setting was nothing but a potential contamination hotspot. Let's have more on the story. With the COVID-19 pandemic and the resulting lockdowns that tripled through the world, 90% of children had their education interrupted, according to a white paper averting an education catastrophe for the world's children. In Uganda, Uwezo, an initiative to improve literacy in East Africa, says 15 million children were disrupted due to school closure in March of this year. However, school is more than a physical space because for some children, it is a safe place for violence. For others, it is a source of regular nourishment. Globally, according to the white paper, the pandemic hit an education system that was already struggling. With more than 175 million children not enrolled in school, yet even those in school not learning. In low-income countries, more than 90% of the children are experiencing learning poverty, not learning the basics by the time they are 10 years old. Research shows COVID-19 educational disruption and response, Rethinking e-learning in Uganda, says, just like it was with Ebola in West African states, education has been one of the worst hit sectors. Without a vaccine, the end of social distancing measure is uncertain, hence affecting reopening of schools and could lead to a very disruptive stop-go period during recovery, with schools reopening and then closing. Unlike the past, when final exams were done in November, they had been pushed to March and April. Mr. Ezira Turia Hikayo, the deputy head teacher of Crested Secondary School, says it has affected many. Children have had to struggle with the pain of watching a year go by and their hopes dashed as they waited seat for their final exams. Education business-wise in general has collapsed. Let's go for a short break. We'll be right back. The African Union mission in Somalia says a Ugandan military chopper used by the AMISOM troops in Somalia has crashed soon shortly after taking off.
The accident took place in Balidogol in the lower Shabelle region of Somalia. AMISOM in a statement says all 4 soldiers aboard were rescued and are in stable conditions. Investigations are ongoing to determine the cause of the crash. However, preliminary reports indicate that it was due to mechanical failure. The Chief of Defense Forces, General David Muhoozi, said the sending off of the aviation unit that the chopper was meant to increase their firepower against the Al-Shabaab militants. According to CDF, the presence of air assets will also not only guarantee the dominancy of firepower, but it will also provide a marked advantage on technical intelligence among other benefits. Consequently, the UPDF started carrying out raids against the Al-Shabaab militants, killing over 180 militants last month. The helicopter belonged to the AMISOM activation unit from the Uganda People's Defense Forces, UPDF.
The Angolan cartoonist Sergio Picara was awarded the Franco-German Prize for Human Rights and the Rule of Law for his commitment to the promotion of freedom and expression in Angola. In the Museum of Military History in the center of Luanda, the national flag was praised and the anthem sung. This was followed by the deposition of flowers on the monument of the unknown soldier in homage to all those who fought for the independence of Angola, achieved 15 years later. At the same time, elsewhere in the city, the National Police dispersed a demonstration with 100 participants in protest against the economic crisis and for political change. According to the authorities, the demonstration did not meet the legal requirements and participants committed several acts of vandalism, while the demonstrators claimed to have been surprised by the strong police apparatus. The demonstrators also wanted to express their support for the inhabitants of Kafumfo in the Diamond region of Luanda Norte, where on Saturday the police suppressed an action that they classified as separatist rebellion and which resulted in at least 6 deaths. Some non-governmental organizations denounced human rights violations. The government has ordered the opening of judicial inquiry. The Democratic Republic of Congo's President Felix Tshisekedi has now taken over the helm of African Union to serve as the chairman for 1 year.
He replaces his South African counterpart Cyril Ramaphosa following the African Union's 34th summit on Saturday. But Tshisekedi faces big challenges this year, with the coronavirus pandemic hitting health service and economies hard. The continent has so far been hit less hard than other regions, recording 3.5% of the global virus cases and 4% of global deaths according to the African Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. But many African countries are battling damaging second waves while straining to procure sufficient vaccine doses. African leaders are speaking out against hoarding by rich countries at the expense of poorer ones. Vaccine financing is also expected to be discussed at the summit. Other issues facing the continent are the Nile Dam dispute and conflicts in Ethiopia's Tigray and Sahel and the Central African Republic.
Let's go for a short break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right to know. COVID-19 pandemic dominated discussion at the African Union Summit this weekend, almost a year after the first case was reported in Egypt. Although the death toll is relatively low, about 4% of deaths worldwide, many countries now face a second more serious wave. As the outgoing president of the organization, South Africa's president, Cyril Ramaphosa, said the continent faces an unprecedented social and economic crisis, and despite IMF and World Bank support, access to loans on favorable terms are needed. The global race for vaccines has also left African leaders worried, but preparations are underway to vaccinate 60% of the African population by the end of the year. The process of institutional reform of the African Union was also under discussion at the virtual summit. The Commission's own institutional reform has also to be strengthened, for example, at departmental level. The Commission's own institute reform has also to be strengthened at departmental level. There were other charges at the AU at the summit. Moussa Faki Mahamat, who faced no opponents, was re-elected head of AU Commission for years, and the DRC's president, Felix Tshisekedi, becomes the African Union chairman for 1 year. He says the silence of arms will be priority during his mandates. And in our business news today, the Financial Intelligence Authority is viewing regulations to come up with a way in which mobile loan data can be sufficiently shared with the credit reference bureaus to minimize default.
The regulations under the FIA, as an amendment in 2016, would allow accredited credit providers such as mobile money network operators and utility companies to use national identity cards to provide information to credit reference systems. The review, according to Bank of Uganda Executive Director for Research, seeks to find an efficient process that will ensure that mobile loan information is sent to credit reference bureaus with national identity cards as enablers. Currently, only supervised financial institutions are required to submit borrowers' loan data to Metropole Credit Reference Bureau and CompassCan, the only two CRBs operating in Uganda. Microloans, which are extended by mobile money service providers such as MTN and Airtel, the central bank said fall below the 500,000 shillings threshold set for reporting to the CRB using the financial card system. However, in a June 2020 circular to all supervised financial institutions, the central bank noted that use of financial card system was hindering access to credit by the wider segment of the country's population. The circular informed supervised financial institutions and the market of the central bank's progress on establishing the national identification number as a unique identifier for borrowers, in addition to putting in place a near real-time mechanism for the authentication of NINs. In a bid to ease access to credit, the central bank in the same circular waived the mandatory requirement for borrowers to acquire financial cards if the loan is 500,000 shillings or less. However, the shift to national IDs could pose a risk to the financial sector if the process is not streamlined, because there has been multiple reports of inconsistencies. Sharing mobile loan information based on national IDs would reduce default rates in microloans, which are facilitated through possession of a SIM card, by ensuring that even when the SIM card is discarded, the service provider is able to recover the loan. The financial sector, especially banking, has been forced to pay attention to microloans, which are growing at a fast pace. Currently, there are over 23 million mobile subscribers, and the average number of microloans taken on a monthly basis during 2020, according to Bank of Uganda, stood at 421,300. Increase in adoption of microloans has been found to affect the banking sector.
And in our sports news today, Morocco retained the 2021 African Nations Championship after thrashing Mali in a thrilling final in Cameroon on Sunday night. Let's have more of this story. Sofiane Boftini header opened the score at 69th minute after a superb corner cross. 10 minutes later, Ayoub El Kabi netted in another header to finalize the scores against the Malian team. Kenyan referee Peter Waweru, who officiated the match, had a time calming down the tense game that was topped on many occasions following numerous disagreements amongst players with both teams. Morocco is now the first team to retain the title and also joined the Democratic Republic of Congo in winning the cup twice. The national team began the competition in Group C alongside Togo, Rwanda and Uganda. Morocco's first two performances are 1-0 win against Togo and 0-0 draw versus Rwanda were unconvincing and planted doubts in many fans. However, in the third game, the Moroccan team appeared to finally regain the offensive prowess that characterized it in the 2018 CHAN. It thrashed Uganda with a 5-2 score, finishing the group stage at the top. Morocco proceeded to beat Zambia 3-1 in the quarterfinals. In the semi-finals, the Moroccan team eliminated the tournament's hosts, Cameroon, with a dominating 4-0 score, sending a strong message to their opponents in the final. The CHAN 2021 top scorer is Moroccan striker Sofiane Rahimi, who netted a total of 5 goals. Before we end our bulletin, let's take a look at our top stories.
In the news today, only 13 Noob supporters have been granted court bail. Edim Two and others will have to wait up to Monday next week. COVID-19 pandemic dominated the African Union Summit discussion. Morocco retains the CHAN title after thrashing Mali 2-0. This and more stories in our bulletin.
Thank you so much for watching with us. It is TV Africa, the right to know. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
This is Africa, and that was the news.